Ladies and gentlemen, this Halloween brings you an unexpected, surprising African take on the tradition of terror, the tradition of ghosts. Because y'all know Africans don't do ghosts, but here we are. Welcome, welcome to a conversation with an actress, a writer, a creator of the very first vampire horror African story, a tale of two sisters, a tale of secrets, a tale of deception. If you haven't been watching your Seed and Spark crowdfunding campaign, you better start watching now because you only have 2 days left to join the movement. But I will not ruin it for you. I would like to introduce to you the creator, the fabulous Nomsa Mulambo!
Are you sure
Welcome.
you're not an actor tonight?
I have a little bit of, I'm too shy, believe it or not. I think I'm just feeling emboldened. I don't know why, but I'm too shy for that life. But I need to show the people my outfit in honor of, hey
Please,
guys, you got a free view. But
yes, we have some cleavage
my
and
little
some.
outfit,
Oh, it's lovely.
my little outfit in honor of, it's my African goth take. Um yeah, my African take on the goth look
There
in
you go.
of this conversation.
You look lovely.
Thank you. So welcome. I often tell people why these Insta lives exist. We actually gave it a go live on Instagram. So I'm sorry, people, if you wanted to talk to
Three
us
times.
3 times, but the technology was like, no, 'tis the season for sabotage since it's Halloween up in here. So we're pre-recording this, but we still want to talk to you. Please DM Nomsa, DM me. Let's have a conversation about everything we're going to talk about today. But these Insta lives exist because I am super excited about having conversations with creative people because there's so many ways to enter the creative space, and creativity can mean so many different things to us. Creativity can be a source of income. Creativity can be a source of expression, a source of celebration. And Noms is going to share her own journey into the world of creativity and what she's busy with right now. So I want to dive into who you are. We tried this before. We will not surrender. But please tell the people who you are, what you do in the creative space, and what you do for a day job, and where we might know you from.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Nomsa Mlambo. I am an actor and I am also a writer. And for my day job, I work as a special projects manager for an education nonprofit. And I'm so grateful for that job because it helps me to fund my creative endeavors. So,
Yay. But what we want is that you don't have to do that anymore, right? And then there's other funds that are coming in. In fact, just shout out to community, right? Community that backs and supports what we do. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But what would people have seen you in?
So you might have seen me on Blackish or the Upshaws or the Mysterious Benedict Society. It's a children's show on Disney Plus. Zimbabweans may remember me from Everyone's Child that was released in 1996, I believe. And yeah, I think that's where people would really remember me from.
Me, I remember you from that. Even though I didn't know who you were. And just y'all, I've got 2 dogs, so if you hear some dog action, that's just life. That's what's happening. But yeah, I remember you. I remember I hadn't watched very many movies in the movie theater, and I went to see that, and I was pretty young. And I remember feeling all sorts of feelings and watching that movie and being really moved by it. And then I got to meet you later on in life, which has been a truly cool thing. And the movie was directed by Tsitsi Dangarembwa, who's a famous author who wrote a book called, and I forgot again, even though we're doing this for the fourth time. Nervous conditions, yes. And the opening, the
Yes.
opening line is, "I was not sad when my, whew, I was not sad when my brother died." Hey guys, Halloween now, and now I'm scared. But the opening line is, "I was not sad when my brother died," and I remember that struck me just like, that is a way to bring an audience in, right? Like that, and I'm paraphrasing. So Tsitsi Dangarembwa, if you ever watch this, I apologize, but that line was really, really powerful. So you were 17, you said, when you did that film, and then a year later you moved to the US. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, so I think it was after the movie was released. I remember it was 97.
Yeah.
Is when I moved to the United States, and I went to an actors conservatory, and then I was working in the theater for a while, and then I moved to New York, and I was performing out there for a while until September 11th of 2001. And I have to say, in retrospect, that really changed my life. I think I felt real fear for the first time. And so I stopped pursuing my acting career, actually. And I went what I thought was the safe route. I ended up going to business school. I ended up getting my MBA. But I was still really interested in acting. And so I would go to writing classes after work. I was doing improv theater after work. So I was still very much in that space until I'd say 7 years ago. I just said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I just want to go and live my dream again. And so I packed up everything, left New York, moved to Los Angeles, and here I am. And it's been, it's not what I thought it would be. Let's just say.
That is the most LA thing I've ever heard you say in my life. That is like the most politically neutral, uh, like, but we'll talk about that. I mean, do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Well, I think a lot of people come here to witness their dreams come alive. And I've realized that you can't just have dreams in this town because they can quickly become nightmares. And there's a certain amount of doing that you have to do. There's a certain amount of luck. There's a certain amount of people you know. It's a combination of a lot of things. And then you'll have things like COVID or the strikes, just a lot of things, a lot of elements that you can't control. And I think that is what I found very challenging, is there are lots of parts of this business that I don't have control over. And so it makes me anxious sometimes, But I think being able to create gives me that sense of control and that sense of purpose, Like I'm actually doing something to see my dreams come true. And I'm playing a really active part in doing that. And that fulfills me.
Listen, you're an MBA gal, which means you know how to do the work. Like I mean, the fact that you chose that as a path, and sure, it's an interesting thing because very young, you were already in the creative space. So you'd almost found what your gift was pretty early. And to land a feature film, Nomsa, at 17 is pretty big. So how did that happen in the first place, in Zim of all places?
Okay, so I started acting at 8. I had a speech and drama teacher, actually, and my mom would drop me off once a week with this woman, and we'd work on poetry, monologues, and things like that for the speech and drama Fits, the annual festivals, competitions. So I participate in those. And then, and I was doing commercials as well. And then, interestingly enough, I actually booked more time. Remember that movie? I did book that one. And my school said no, they wouldn't give me time off to do it. So I didn't do it. But I'll tell you now, I think that movie was Prudence Katomeni's movie. That was her movie. She did an excellent job. We'll always remember her for it. And yeah, it was her movie. So that's the interesting twist. And I guess they just remembered me from that. Okay. And then I guess it was the next year. I got offered
Everyone's Child, which y'all must see. It's on, and I will look for it, and I'll put in the caption where you can watch it. But it's a really beautiful movie. And when you say they, was it the Rebas? Was it the same filmmakers?
They were producing
Film Media Trust, I think, or something, that name.
Media for Development Trust.
Media for Development, and they're still making stuff. I actually saw something with my mom that they made. I think it was in Tanzania.
Okay.
They still, and it was Jordan. I went to primary school with their son, and then the older brother is actually a director now. And then one of the sons is a cinematographer. Anyway, it's a teeny tiny world, and it's amazing. It's amazing that you got to do that. And actually, that was one of the movies that made me want to study filmmaking. Like, so anyway, it all comes full circle. So okay, so you're obviously memorable. You're obviously good at what you do because you get a call back for this major feature film. But then what made you then pivot to doing business instead of, and pretty young too, so this is before you moved to LA. Why did you make that choice?
I think there were lots of personal reasons. There was a big family move that happened during that time. And as the responsible oldest girl child in an African family, there's some things that I felt that I needed to do for my family. And that's what I did. I don't regret it. And my family is fine. We're thriving. Everyone's good. And so, yeah, I felt that I needed to be serious. And in some way, I don't know why I think I know why. I think acting at the time, or even now, was still so, it almost happens by chance, right? It's all these people who are auditioning for this one role, and it's unstable. And I needed stability. That's what I really, really needed. I didn't want to be going from this job, 3 weeks here, 2 weeks here, and then your earning potential during that time is quite low unless you book something really big. I just didn't want to leave that to chance, honestly. So that's the choice that I made.
And thank you for sharing something so personal. I know that's not easy, but why I was asking you that is like sometimes there's this, you said you were in the Upshaws, you said you were in Blackish, so people can make the assumption that, oh my gosh, oh look at her, privilege, whatever. And so like oftentimes when you're sharing like some of the wins you've had, people assume like an ease, right? And so you're saying you're a human with a family, with a life, and part of that goes into the creative journey and how much time you can devote to it because you're not operating in isolation, right? So,
Right.
so you're in New York, and it's part of your story. And actually, it's interesting hearing you say that because it's kind of in your story a little bit in terms of not so much the
Right.
specifics of the circumstances, but Vimbai, like the character, holds an identity based on who she is, right? So we'll get to that again in a minute, but we're going to get to know you a bit better. But like again, from anybody that's watching this, the path, guys, is not always, it rarely is straight. And I'm curious, like in your view, and why I was asking about sharing like the Zim piece, like how you booked a movie like that, and then you made this pivot, but like you talked about how it's a combination of luck and there's very little you can control. What do you think that's about? Because cool, you're an 18-year-old that's living in America, you're older now. Why do you think it's all of these things in the context that you're in, like to land that dream job? Why do you think it's so many variables, the variables that you mentioned?
Ooh.
Just from your own just your own journey, you can't really speak for anybody else, really.
Yeah, I think you're so far from the decision makers, right?
Mm,
So many, whether we want to call them gatekeepers, whatever title you want to give these people, but there's several layers. There's a hierarchy to things. And unless you are known in some way, like someone has seen you somewhere, either at a showcase or on a commercial or on a show, it's very hard to prove yourself, you know. I think what I like is, even if I don't book with a specific casting director, if I see that they keep calling me in, I already know that I've booked the room, right? They like me. They're just trying to find the right thing for me, because ultimately they can show me to producers, and the producers have their own decisions that they need to make, right? And so I know that there are people out there who are working on my behalf, right? And you just have to find the right thing. But it's a game of persistence as well, right? You just have to keep going. And I'm glad that I have the means to do so, because I do have this other job, right? That gives me the flexibility to go on auditions if I book a job, to be able to work that job. And a lot of people don't have that, you know, or they're in other jobs that don't allow them that flexibility. So I have to say that I'm very lucky in that respect, you know, that I have the trust of my boss and my co-workers, that I will work equally as hard for them as I will for my own dreams, right? So that's the arrangement that we have, and I honor that arrangement. You know?
And that's not easy to find, like bosses that will give you the fact that you were able to do that. I think is also a testament to your negotiating skills, because because I think some bosses would be weird and I'm like, sorry, okay, no. You know, you must be pretty good at your job too.
You know, when I was just interviewing for stuff, and I'd say I'm an actor, because I would tell them, I had to be upfront with them. You could tell people are not happy with that. You know, there's a reputation that actors have, that they're flaky and all this kind of stuff. I think a lot of the time it's circumstantial and not necessarily a personality trait. But people don't like that. They see them as unreliable. But I also had to prove myself, right? I had to prove reliable, that I do take this job seriously. And I do, because that's what helps me to eat, right? During long periods, especially like the last 2 years, right? Last year, the strikes. And then this year, work hasn't really picked up for a lot of people. And so, you know, what do you do in the meantime?
I hear that. And it's actually a blessing that you've got other skills, right? Which, I mean, do you think that's important? Like, as a creative person, do you find that help? I mean, you're stating the obvious, but do you think it's important? Or because there's some people that are like, focus on your craft, like just lean all the way in and da da da. Then others are like, you know, have a plan for. Do you have a take on that?
I think there was a time where I had that mindset that I have to be all in. If I'm not all in, then I lack commitment. I'm never going to make it, all these kinds of things, right? But reality sets in. I can be all in and spending 7 hours a day at a studio. But when I come back and I get that email that my rent needs to be paid, what am I going to do? Right? Or for me to get to auditions, I need a car. I have to maintain a car. I have to put gas in that car. So I had to change my mindset and say, okay, the other hours that I use working on my, what we'll call my day job, right, is what helps me to be able to have my creative pursuits. Without that job, I'd be unstable. I'd probably be depressed. I would not be operating as my best artistic self, right? So I have to honor that that's the stage that I am in life right now, and honor that commitment that I'm making to these people, because it's also a commitment to myself as well.
And then just, thanks for sharing that. I mean, because there are a few people that listen to this. You're the second actress I've had on this. And should I confess this? I used to not like, I didn't like actors very much. So I was one of those people that was also like, actors are super flaky, right? Because my primary job has been producing. And so I used to find that actors, not everybody, of course, but the behavior sometimes, and again, not everybody, but in those instances when you'd have not great experiences with actors, and you don't make your day. And literally in filmmaking, time is money. Literally every single second that you're not rolling or not moving towards rolling,
Yeah.
is literally 100 people on set that are being paid for the day, but there's no output because of somebody who may not know their lines or whatever, right? And so I used to get frustrated and be like, this person comes at the end of a process. And it took me 2 years to develop an idea, another year to get it contracted. And you know this now, another year to raise enough financing. And then on the day of shoot, these actors. So I just used to have this like frustration that's evolved, of course, over time. And my frustration was like, the actor doesn't have a perspective of what it took to even get to this day. And so not really holding a respect for that process. But then when I started to work more closely with actors and observing your process, I was like, wait a minute, what it takes for you to be ready for that moment, I can't even do. And there's this other actress I met who's a ballet dancer, and she does ballet training 2 to 4 hours every day so that she's able to take auditions for dance roles, so that she's always ready. And then I've watched you. Sometimes I'm like, hey, Nomsa, do you want to hang out? And you're like, sorry, I've got a self-tape. Sorry, I've got a I'm prepping for this. Sorry. So can you just talk us through those of us that don't really understand what goes in before the all right, camera set, da 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 da, and act. What goes into your even before the audition? Talk us through all of that.
So the one thing that we're encouraged to do is always be in either classes or workshops. So you're always training your instrument, right? So that's something that at least take a class once a week, but you also have to be able to afford that, right? Let's just start there. And then so what will happen is you'll work with an agent, and some people don't have agencies, but they self-submit, and you'll get an email saying this casting director has invited you to audition for this project, and have the breakdown of the character. Sometimes they'll have wardrobe suggestions. Sometimes they'll have the sides. They usually have the sides, which are maybe an excerpt from the script, right? And it could be from 1 to 10, 11 pages, right? And they'll tell you when it's due. So you look at your schedule, you read, this is what I do. I read the sides, I look at my schedule, and I say, okay, I'm going to tape on such and such a day, right? Or at such and such a time. Now what do I need to do? The first thing I need to do, especially if it's a self-tape, I have to find somebody who's going to read with me, right? And usually that's another actor, because they understand the process. Sometimes I've even had my mom, but you can tell it's not an actor. And then sometimes you need coaching, right? So you'll have to book a coaching session that you have to pay for, and you have to learn your lines. So usually if I have to learn my lines, I will do it by either walking around my neighborhood. I will tape it onto a certain app where the app says the other actor's lines to me, and I respond. So all of that takes hours, right? Especially if it's a physical piece, you have to practice. You have to practice what you're going. And then on the day that you decide that you're going to shoot your self-tape, you're going to set up your camera like you are a DP, right? And then you contact your friend on either FaceTime or Zoom or whatever it is, and then you tape it, and then you have to be an editor, because now you have to either add your name, or you have to do what do they call a slate, which is from here to here. I say my name, sometimes my height, and then I have to do it full body shots. I have to put all those pieces together and then upload it. And sometimes it goes straight to the casting director. Sometimes it goes to your agent. They'll look at it first and then send it off. So that is a lot of time.
And resources. Because it almost sounds like you have to spend money before you make money too.
Yes, yes, this is
Okay.
very true. And that's why I'm happy that I have a job.
You have a job. Right. So, Nomsa, so you're okay. And I mean, okay, statistically, can you give us some stats? Like, of every self-tape you've done in your career to date, how many gigs have you booked? Percentage? MBA, come on, give us the percentage.
I would say less than 10. Yeah, it's an over 90% rejection rate. You have to be a little bit crazy to be an actor, honestly.
Okay. And
Yes.
stamina and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
You tape it, you upload it, and then you move to the next one. You can't be
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I didn't. No, that's not good for my mental health.
Yeah. I'm sure it took you a minute to learn that.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
probably took me a couple of years to learn that.
Yeah.
I can't be too attached to something, even though I might really like a project. Um, there's so many factors that actually have nothing to do with my acting
Mm,
that I don't
mm,
get the role. I could be too short. I could be, maybe there are other people in the ensemble who look like me, or it
mm.
just, I remind the producer of his ex-girlfriend. It just could be anything, right?
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
learned not to take it personally.
But what you have also learned is how to take your destiny into your own hands. So
Hey.
talk to us about why we're here this Halloween month.
I have just been writing things here and there. But I did write this short named Vimbai. And honestly, I didn't even realize it was Vimbai the vampire until until my sister pointed it out. But I just wanted to use genre to shine a light on just some of the things that I was going through as okay, I'm just going to say it, right? As a child-free woman who's unpartnered, middle-aged, um, unseen, also, and it's so, what's so interesting right now in our current climate, especially at this election, is the denigration of that person in society. It's so strange to me. It's crazy because most of the time we just live quiet lives with no drama. Um, but the childless cat lady has become like this terrible thing in society, and it's just so crazy. But anyway, whether you are looking for love or you're not looking for love, if you want children, you don't want children, or we are a growing cohort, I have to say. um, I think we are finding a voice. We are losing the shame, and we just want to be free. We just want to be free. And I just want to add to the growing number of voices that represent us out there, you know?
So for those that have no idea what Nomsa is talking about, Nomsa
Mm-hmm.
wrote a script called Veins of the it was called something else actually before, but it's currently called Veins of the Felt. And I gave her heat for the title. I was like, nobody knows what a felt is. But be you, do what you want, you know. But yeah, so it's a short film called Veins of the Felt. And just could you just tell us a little bit about how you've brought some of these things that you're talking about now about the invisibility, which is ridiculous because you're drop dead beautiful and you're super smart and you're tenacious and you're all the things, yet we're invisible. I mean, help me understand, but that's another conversation. So you brought all of those things into this film and just tell us a little bit about the premise of the film, where you're shooting the film and why you want to do it, where you want to do it.
So basically, I created this character called Vimbai, and she is a vampire, and she solicits her sister's help. Her sister lives in Zimbabwe. To reverse this vampirism. She doesn't want it. Why? Because as much power as she could have as a vampire, it comes with a lot of loneliness. I don't know, I'm wrestling with that. Do I want to live forever? Um, idea. Um, you will lose the love of your life. Um, can you have children as a vampire? These are questions, right? And then survival. For her very survival, she needs to feed. And that means she needs to kill, right? And how will she survive? And this goes against her own, the human part of her, but she's not a human anymore, you know? So everyone she encounters is in danger, right? So she's come to Zimbabwe and she is starving herself because she doesn't want to hurt anyone, and she must get this reversed immediately. That's what she really wants. She just wants to be a human. She just wants to be normal. She just wants to be in love. She just wants to be with her family. That's what she wants. But it cannot.
It can't. It can't.
It cannot.
It can't.
So, yes, and there's some very interesting discoveries along the way. Yeah. It's a fun story. It's a fun story. It's a story about sister relationship, you know, different characters that they meet along the way. So it's set in Zimbabwe, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited.
And I've read that script so many times, and I didn't pick up on the, even though she could be powerful if this wasn't taken away from her, she stands to lose stuff that matters to her more if it, you know, and that conflict. So we haven't got a lot of time left, but you're doing a crowdfunding campaign right now. You've been going for almost a month now.
Yes, 28 days. 30 days, so we have 2 days left.
Tell the people what you need. Tell the people what you need. Come on, let's do this.
I need money.
Why do we need money to make films? Tell the people.
I know, right? So we need money to make this film, and we have a crowdfunding campaign running right now on Seed and Spark. And if you log on to Seed and Spark and you search for Veins of the Veldt, it's there. And what we really need, honestly, is to get to the green light, which is 80% of our initial ask. I think we have about $2,000 left. And I believe that we have enough support for us to get there in the next, honestly, day and a half, right? It ends at noon on Wednesday, the 16th, noon Pacific time, so California time. So we really need your help to get to the finish line. And I just want to take this moment to thank everyone who has, yes, there it is. Everyone who has helped us get here. I mean, the support has been tremendous. I have cried several times, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And I'm asking people to continue to support us and help us get to the green light, to the finish line. So thank you in advance for your support.
And sorry, you know, obviously this camera does the reverse, but this is how you spell felt. For the people like me that don't know, I was spelling it wrong. Yeah. V. V for for Vimbai or Victoria.
Yes.
E for Edward or Egypt. L for London or Lanso. D for dog or Novi, if you're Shona. Yes, veins as in veins, the things that blood runs through. Of, or as in of. The THE of the Veldt. Seed and Spark, it's in reverse. Seed and Spark, or follow Nomsa at Nomsa Mlambo, or at Veins, Veins of the Veldt